Good afternoon, everybody. We're just waiting for a few more people to join the meeting. There's 141 people registered, so I just want to give them a bit more time before I start the presentations. Just to let you know, the recording has started, which will be distributed following the presentation. Let some more people join. So I'm just sharing the presentation shortly. I'm just going to ask one of my colleagues, Laura Anderson, just to confirm if we can see the presentation now on screen.
Yeah, we can.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Like I say, I'll just give it a minute or two just give it an extra minute for people to join. Just like I say, we've 141 people registered and we're still climbing. So as it's a minute past, and I'm sure we'll be short of time, what I'd like to do is make a start. Like I said, the session is being recorded and will be made available via various means following this presentation. It may get to tomorrow before we publish it, but we're just going to ensure it gets out to as many people as we can. Like I say, just to introduce myself, those people who don't know me, I'm Paul Taylor. I'm head of card schemes at NOCN Group, which means I cover CPCS and scissors. For CPCS, that means I run the day-to-day and all the development aspects of CPCS. Online also, I've got a colleague, Laura Anderson, who's the Product and Services Coordinator for NOCN Job Cards. And Laura will be helping me present by letting me know if there's any questions or if people have got their hands raised during the presentation. As we're still just getting a couple more people join. Right, we'll make a like I said, we'll make a start because it is being recorded and we'll be able to distribute for those who join late at an alternative time. So thank you again for attending today's meeting. This is an introduction to the CPCS Renewal CPD, which is due to replace the CPCS Renewal Test. So today's topics are going to be covered: introduction to the CPCS Renewal CPD, the history and the need for the Renewal CPD, development of CPD. I believe some people have got hearing difficulties. I'm getting some messages about hearing difficulties.
I can hear you absolutely fine, Paul.
Yeah,
looks like other people can hear fine as well.
Yeah, I think some of the people have said they can hear fine, yeah. So yeah, just to recap the topics that are going to be covered, obviously to confirm the session is being recorded, which is going to be able to be distributed to other people who can't attend. There will be opportunities to ask questions via Teams by raising your hand or typing your question into the chat function. And again, at the end, if we do run out of time and people have still got further questions, then you have my email address, my NOCN email address, and also we have the product at Job Cards email address. So there's two options there to submit questions following the presentation, should you have any. So again, just to recap, what we're going to cover today is the introduction to the CPCS Renewal Test, sorry, CPCS Renewal CPD, force of habit there. It's, many years I've worked for CPCS. So history of the need for the Renewal CPD.
Looks like sorry, Paul,
Laura.
it looks like people are having problems and can't see the presentation either, but I can see it absolutely fine my end.
What we'll do, I think some people might need to log out and then log back in again, just to try it. But like I said, it is being recorded and distributed, so we'll ensure that everyone online is given the opportunity to view the presentation. We'll go through some information about when the go live date is, some transitional arrangements, and then how to book CPD renewal going forward. Yeah. So a bit of history. The need for the renewal test, it was initially formed part of the CPCS competent operator renewal requirements, along with the health, safety, environment test and logbook, if that was requested. But it was also to ensure that those who transferred into CPCS at the beginning of the scheme had the underpinning knowledge, the same as those people who entered the card scheme directly. Just some people just joining live right there. It was aimed to act as a reminder of safety critical elements, and it's also going forward, it's a requirement of the plant sector representative organisation, the PSRO, to include a renewal element within any plant CSCS logoed card scheme, either as a knowledge refresher or an update. And I've put a link there in the slide, which should be usable as when the slides are distributed, so you can access the link and understand a bit more about the PSRO framework if you so wish. But since its induction, the renewal test in its main has not been updated, and the benefits of this are starting to be reduced. So it was time to actually review the renewal test as a whole and take the opportunity to see if it was still delivering what it was expected to deliver. So just as a recap for those who are not fully proficient with the CPCS renewal test as is, it currently consists of 15 questions per category taken from a larger bank. It requires the reading and understanding of a fact sheet as revision material, and it's from this fact sheet that the questions are derived. There's currently 26 categories grouped to cover the full list of the CPCS categories. This enables us to reduce the number of tests people are required to take when renewing the card, and those card holders requiring 5 or more categories would have to purchase multiple tests. In the main, it's delivered at Pearson VUE test centres and at independent test centres, known as ITCs. And in the main, again, it's mainly only available during office hours, and it requires operatives to leave site and undertake maybe in some instances some great travel to get to these centres to be able to take this test. And some messages from people saying they're just having to change screens. Some way to identify a renewal test, we utilise the renewal test tool where a candidate's required to put the candidates. Sorry, just make some messages from people trying to still connect. So to book a test, people have to list or tick the box against the category they have. This would then tell them which test they would need to book and the costs involved with which test we're required to take. So looking forward, we formed a working group to review the renewal test as it currently is, and identified a need for review of the learning content, the question banks, and the revision material, and trying to understand is the renewal test delivering what it is expected to deliver. We also undertook a need of a review to the delivery model, its cost effectiveness for cardholders and employers, taking into consideration that in the main tests are only available during working hours. Listen to an extensive amount of feedback relating to the delivery of the renewal test, and we also want to look at future proofing the renewal test, as at the moment discussions are being held with CLC and CSCS that by 2020-30 potentially all CSCS logo card schemes will have some form of mandated CPD within them. So we just want to try and get ahead of the curve in this respect. So the result of the working group, it was decided to remove the test element from the actual renewal test, and introduce a form of e-learning module. During the e-learning module, it was also to try and confirm there was some learning being undertaken. So there are some confirmatory questions within the learning, as you'll see later on, but it's definitely not a pass-fail situation, which for a lot of people, this is coming as a great sense of relief, because we do get quite a lot of requests for additional support from people with learning needs and difficulties taking the test. We've looked at changing the delivery model and make it more accessible for individuals or employers, and the ability to book the renewal CPD at a time and a place which fits their work and lifestyles. To that end, the CPCS renewal CPD will be available via the NOCN Hub, which is also accessible for CPCS accredited test centres and ITCs as part of a training package, so they can actually register as an employer and still deliver it to individuals to provide additional support for the individuals if they're struggling with IT, etc. So what does the CPD look like? The CPD is an online learning session, a module designed to impart non-category specific knowledge and understanding which will benefit both the employer and the operator. Each module, for example, includes such topics as follows. It's the exclusions on management, blind spot awareness, working around others, environmental and e-cooperating. Each module is designed to include several questions at the end of each topic section to confirm a level of understanding has been reached. And again, just to reiterate, this is not a pass-fail scenario. Should the person respond incorrectly to the question posed, they'll be provided with the right response. And again, at the end of the training session, there's a wash-up session where, again, the individuals are reminded of these are the questions that you got wrong, and perhaps you might want to brush up your knowledge in these areas. All questions will be multiple choice within the learning. As it says there, and all CPCS categories will fall into one of 5 modules. Have we got any questions so far? We're all no hands raised at the moment.
Haven't got any questions yet.
But thank you very much. So as an example, all the categories will fall into one of 5 modules as outlined in this slide. And again, what you may find, if people have multiple categories which span all 5 modules, they will still only be required to pay for one sitting, and all 5 modules be included within that price. So there's no additional cost per module. It's one price for all modules. And I'll just give you a quick example. So I might need to just stop presenting while I share an online example. Stop sharing for a second. So again, with this, what I'm about to show you in the moment is an example of one of the modules which is part of the CPCS Renewal CPD. I will be sharing voice and sound with this, as there is a voiceover for the CPD. But in this function, I can zip through the sort of learning. But in the live version, that function will not be available. They will have to go through each of the slides. And I'll pause and explain some as we go through some of the e-learning. Just share. It didn't ask me to share with sound. Just bear me a second. I have to reshare it. Good sound. Is that now visible, Laura?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. The main design of the CPD learning is very much in line with what we've done with the health, safety, environment testing. It's designed to help people with neurodiverse issues. So it's very low res graphics, very simple to use, very simple terminology. And again, by doing this, it's available to be used on people's laptops and on smartphones once they've booked it.
Exclusion zone management. Many accidents occur with mobile work equipment because operations were not properly planned in advance. Practical measures for safe workplaces include: select the icons below for more information. Pedestrian routes should be established on site to facilitate safe pedestrian movement and access to work areas. Pedestrian routes should be segregated from mobile plant and vehicles, either by a safe distance or by physical barriers. The operating area should be clear of hazards, as far as possible, on all sides. Operators must be informed of the location of any overhead power lines, sensitive areas, underground cables, sewage systems, ducts or services, before operations commence.
So as an example of a question, it's like I say, they can select any of the multiple choice questions. If they get it wrong, they're presented with the right answer, and then they can connect through. So continue. Again, to reiterate, it's not a pass-fail.
Various items of plant have blind spots. A blind spot is an area that the operator cannot naturally see due to machine components obstructing the line of sight. Blind spots can change when a machine is configured differently. For example, blades or buckets can be positioned differently, altering the line of sight. Remember, if you can't see the operator, they can't see you. All-round visibility. Accidents involving mobile work equipment and pedestrians frequently involve poor visibility. Current standards aim to ensure that the operator of the plant or vehicle has all-round vision from the operating position. Therefore, plant needs to be assessed to ensure that the existing levels of visibility meet the requirements of the provision and use of work equipment regulations, published guidance, and your own safe system of work. Select the icons below for more information. All-round visibility can usually be achieved by the use of aids, such as additional mirrors, convex mirrors, or CCTV. Visual aids. Some machines and plant have various systems fitted to help and support operators by detecting people and pedestrians in their workspace. They may be single cameras, 360-degree cameras, sensors with integrated warning. People and plant interface zones. Drag and drop the worker into the different interface zones. Yellow zone. All personnel involved with the plant operation must remain within the yellow zone to maintain visual contact with the plant operator. Red zone. Entry is prohibited in the red zone unless the machine is completely isolated, with the machine immobilized and the engine switched off. The Environmental Act 1990. The Environmental Act 1990 is the legislation responsible for many innovations in environmental protection in the UK. The Act was established by the Environment Agency and Scottish Environmental Protection Agency. These bodies ensure that companies and individuals respect the environment by raising What should you do in the event of a leak or spillage? Click through the steps. Try to identify the source of pollution and stop the flow immediately. Do not wash spillage into the drainage system. You must report all environmental incidents to your manager. The waste hierarchy. Responsible creation and disposal of waste is important to help preserve and protect the environment. The waste hierarchy sets out to dispose of waste responsibly and legally. Reuse and recycle where possible. Reduce the quantity of waste. Eliminate waste. Eco-operator. Working towards a sustainable future by raising awareness of the impact that plant operations can have on people, society, and the environment. The planning of work and operating efficiently leads to emissions reductions and fuel savings.
So again, that's just an example and a quick overview of what the CPCS Renewal CPD will look like. Again, I've got the ability to skip through it, but most other as those candidates taking this will not be able to skip through it. They have to work through the whole of the learning aspect. And then once it's completed, then we'll be informed through the quote system that that person has completed that as part of the renewal requirements. Each module is designed to last between 30 and 40 minutes. And as there's no test environment aspect to it, it's a drop in and out. They have to complete the whole of it before it gets shown up on their record as completed. So like, again, they can drop in and out of it numerous times throughout a day or weekend, whenever, to work through multiple options.
We do have a couple of other questions, Paul.
So, yeah.
Can this be done in other languages?
At the moment, it's only in English at the moment. There's no plans at this moment in time to publish it in various other languages. We just wanted to get this rolled out in this English first, and then we can look at the feedback from this initial release.
Yeah. For ITCs providing the tests, will there be a maximum amount they can charge?
Yes. So what it is, we're still working in relationship. We're not going to stipulate a maximum charge. What we're going to look at is if it's a reasonable charge for the service they're providing. So we won't be saying that each test centre is allowed to charge X amount of pounds on top of the cost of delivering it. It will be deemed, if it's excessive, then we can actually take action. When you actually create to sign up and as I'll show you later on an example, where you come to sign up to use the platform, there is a set of terms and conditions which will outline what we deem to be a reasonable charge on top of the actual cost of the fee for providing the service. Again, really what we're trying to do is saying, yes, obviously we realise ITCs, you have to make a living. It's not a loss leader for yourselves, but in the main also we want to be in a position to stop third parties taking advantage of operators' lack of knowledge in this area to charge excessive amounts as part of the renewal process.
And just just for clarification, ITCs are able to offer this as a service, but they aren't. It's not run through the Pearson VUE side of things like the current renewal tests are. So just to clarify that for those in the chat. And we have got a hand up, so bear with me a moment. I'm going to see if I can get that to work for Walt.
Stop sharing on it so you can see it.
Did try to make Walt so he can speak, but it's not coming up that it's allowing him to.
Let me see if I can do it from my end. Sorry, Walt, can you just try and see if you can use your mic for me, please? You might have to click on the microphone icon. I mean, what we might have to do is we might have to try and get back to Walt after, just so we can keep the presentation flow. We might have to come back to Walt just to see if we can get his question.
That's fine. I also have a final question on here. Will this completed e-learning appear on Card Checker and be valid for the 2 years as before? And will a score report or certificate be issued?
Yeah, so a score report or a certificate won't be issued because there's no test element to this. It's just obviously when you get to the end of it, you'll get a completed score like I showed on the example. Once it's completed, the result will be transferred via quotes to CPCS, and then it will also be visible on CPCS Card Checker. And it is again valid for 2 years.
Does it have to be recorded?
No, it's not a recorded system. It is literally a person. As we go through the account system later on, we'll be able to show the sort of confirmation of who's actually viewing this. So we won't actually be recording the platform or the person sitting doing the element, because it's e-learning, not a test element. It's a complete move away from testing from that perspective.
Final question for now. Can an individual sit this in their own time at home without involving an ITC?
Yes. That is, yeah, so one of the primary functions of this was to be able to allow people, very much like the health, safety, environment test, if they've got the suitable skills and IT equipment, they'll be able to log in at home over a weekend, take the CPD renewal test or renewal CPD learning. Sorry, bad habit. Honestly, I'm falling back into the old habit of calling it a test, but it's CPD renewal. Yeah, any time in their place, and then when it's completed, it'll show up on the court system that it's been completed, and then we'll be able to accept a renewal as long as the health, safety, environment test has also been completed. Any further questions at the moment? Yeah, there's a few questions. Yeah, there's a few questions coming in, but I think some of the questions that are coming in are more relating to some of the further topics I'm going to cover in the presentation. So what I'll do is I'll get through the next section of the presentation, but we'll pick up some of these questions later on, because I know there's one about employers buying purchasing tests on behalf of others, and that is in the next part of the presentation. So I'll just present again. Hopefully it's not set up where we left off, so just bear me a second. I'll skip through to where we were last showing. So again, when we distribute the slide deck following this presentation, the link should be available, so you should be able to see the examples listed there as part of the CPD. Following the initial release of the renewal CPD, the working group are going to reconvene to look at the impact it's having. From that, we'll be able to then decide, do we need to start looking at additional specific modules? Do we need to increase modules further? And as legislation changes or health and safety requirements change, we can then create further modules and make these modules very specific to individuals. Some people may have noticed that we've actually released an online version of the logbook. Within the logbook, we'll be able to see exactly which categories people hold. And as such, as we develop this renewal CPD, it'll become more bespoke to that individual based on the categories they hold. And by utilising the online logbook, we'll be able to inform them directly of what renewal requirements they're required to complete prior to renewal. So it allows us to get easier access to the operator using the online logbook. And as such, following the next development phase of the online logbook, we'll be able to have it speaking directly to our quote system, which will then tell us directly if this person's got the relevant hours in the operating logbook to be able to renew. So we won't have to request any more logbooks. We'll be able to see it straight away. But the logbook will probably be another webinar that I set up in the future to sort of show the development of that. And again, as the question, just to reiterate on the question was raised, during the feedback following the initial release, if it is identified that we have to look at putting voiceovers in other languages, then that's what we can do at that second phase of development. So just some transitional aspects. So the go live date for this test is the 22nd of August. The last Pearson VUE test will be the 21st of August. One of the added benefits of doing this test, the way we're moving it to, is to remove the test fee requirements from Pearson VUE, which were set to go up again. So just to reiterate, virtually every card that was being renewed was actually costing CPCS based on the testing cost within the renewal test. So this is additional one of the reasons why we had to remove this. We did try to continue to work with Pearson VUE, but we couldn't get to an agreed point in that any future price increases would have to be then directly related to the candidate, therefore pushing the cost of the card up, which we were very much against. Pearson VUE are going to stop selling vouchers via the website, and any organisations who have purchased vouchers from Pearson VUE, we are in the process of contacting them, and as we approach nearer to the transitioner date, we'll be contacting Pearson VUE for an update of all the unspent vouchers. So we'll then be able to create an account for those companies with the vouchers and then give credit notes for those organisations to be able to then book CPCS Renewal CPD modules. The vouchers themselves, which are purchased from Pearson VUE, are not directly transferable. So this is an agreement we've made that we will cover that cost. Any individual who's purchased a renewal test via the NOCN Hub who has not taken the test will be automatically transferred over to the new CPD on the 22nd. And again, any individual who's purchased more than 2 tests, more than 1 test, due to the number of categories they've had to take, the additional cost of the second test will be refunded to the individual following that transitional date. Again, it says internet test centres can offer this as part of a service package by registering on those as an employer. And obviously we will be undertaking monitoring to ensure that third parties are not overcharging as outlined in the terms and conditions when they sign on to the programme. CPCS renewal letters, which candidates receive up to 3 months prior to the expiry of their card, also contains the information they need to be able to book this new test, this new process. So the hub itself, we'll come back to the question sessions in a short while. So the online NOCN Hub itself is an online portal where you can purchase and undertake invigilated and uninvigilated NOCN courses such as the Group Health Safety Environment Test, CPCS Renewal Test, and CPCS Awareness courses. Within following that link, the hub is accessible via the drop down on the NOCN Group website. Additionally, the CPCS within the job cards website where it says book a test, if you click on the link book a test, it'll then take you to the second page where there will be a link to the NOCN Hub. When you select the hub for the first time, you'll be able to sign up as either an individual or as an employer. You just pick the relevant corresponding. So was that a message for me, Laura? Someone just came up on my screen, so I do apologise for the break of conversation.
Sorry, no, it was just trying to help Danny. He's not getting the screen to show up, but I think he just needs to leave and come back in again.
Brilliant. Right, yeah. So just to recap there, so as soon as you click on the link, you'll be given the option to sign up to the NOCN Hub, and you can do that as an individual or as an employer. And again, that link is there, and there's a link on that page to the terms and conditions and privacy policy, etc. Just another different version of. So when you actually sign up, is that blurred at your end, Laura? Sorry, that screen doesn't look very clear to me at this end. Is it blurred?
It's fine for me.
Yeah. So once you've actually logged up, to re-log into this, as an individual, when you create your account, you'll be asked some security questions, which you should only be the person who knows the question. And it's along the lines of, if you're a CPCS card holder, it could be along the lines of, where did you do your CPCS test for this category, etc., things like that. But once you've actually created your account, basically you log into NOCN Hub, you put your email and your password, log you in. You'll then automatically get an email with a 6-digit code, which you have to put in. This is the 2-step verification process that we have to put into this. So as an individual, if you plan to take this CPD and wish someone else to sit this on your behalf, you are knowingly committing fraud. So if we're able to identify this, it's obvious that you've actually passed your login details to a third party, and we can take the corresponding action. Once you've successfully logged in as an individual, this is the screen you'll be shown. And on this screen, it allows you to look at the course catalogue, your own specific learning. You'll be able to apply for your blue card renewal if you've met all the requirements. If there's any certificates from any other NOCN courses that you've attained are there. And also there'll be a link to your logbook. And again, the logbook on this page will be specific to the candidate, as this is the candidate login screen. If you select the test courses radial button, you'll then be provided with a list of courses that you will be able to attend. Now, in this screenshot, it's taken from the live system, so it still currently shows the CPCS renewal test and all the other available courses from NOCN that you may wish to take. So once the 22nd comes along, that'll transfer to CPCS Renewal CPD. From that, again, you'll use the CPCS Renewal Test tool. Yes, it will still, because everyone's used to seeing the renewal test, we decided to keep the terminology and language same for now. But on the 22nd, it'll refer to the CPCS Renewal Test CPD. Again, you'll be required to put in the categories that you hold. And then on the next screen, it'll then tell you the modules that you have to take and the cost, and then how to book. And when you click on the how to book, again, it'll just confirm this is your categories. It'll just be the one fee, because again, this is taken from the current live system. So we have to show the operative both options of being able to take a renewal test as it is. That's why there's the Pearson View version. But as of the 22nd, that will be disappearing. From an employer's perspective, when an employer logs onto their dashboard, it looks slightly different. And these are the different radial buttons on this screen. So within this one, you'll be able to see your customer account portal, and this is an add to invoice function that is available for employers going forward. So when you create your account, you'll be able to link it to your NOCN account and then add any courses you've booked on behalf of someone else, and that'll be into that account. So as a question someone mentioned before, you can purchase on behalf of other people. Currently, it's a pay-as-you-go version. So if I book a test on behalf of Laura, I'll pay for it using a credit card, etc. Laura then will receive an email from myself with a link to access the learning or the health safety environment test. Again, if Laura didn't have an account, there's some simple account setup requirements that they can do. And again, this is something that an ITC or a CPCS test centre or an employer can decide to support the individuals themselves. And then also with what you can see as an employer, you'll be able to see your learners dashboard, and it looks very similar to this, where it'll show the tests you've bought on behalf of people, should it be a health safety environment test or a renewal CPD, and it'll also tell you if that person's actually accessed and completed that learning going forward. So I hope that helps everyone. What I'd like to do now is just open the floor for some questions and ask Laura if there's any questions, or if people have got any specific questions that they'd like to ask at this point.
We do have quite a few questions in the chat, but some of these I think might have already been answered. So hopefully, so can the employer book on behalf of the worker?
Yes, that's definite. Yes. Yeah.
Can a candidate complete half of the CPD and then come back to it later on and finish it off?
Yes, that function's available. Yeah, so like I say, it's not a case of like a test where once you've sat down and you've started, you can actually drop out of it and drop back in. Like I say, it'll only show completed once the whole learning has been completed by that individual.
Do users require a laptop?
No, again, because we've decided not to put a test in this first initial release. Again, down the line, feedback might say that we might need to revert back to a test scenario, but at this moment in time, there's no plan to do so. But because there's no test and as such no requirement for online invigilation, this actually has been tested on Android and Apple phone devices, and it works. So the individual could actually do this on site as long as they got connectivity.
Does the test last 5 years as the previous test does? The tests have previously only lasted 2 years to renew a card. So, but yes, it does, doesn't it, Paul? It's the same.
Yeah, all validation periods for our tests will remain the same. Again, so if you decide to take your renewal, you can actually take this up to a year in advance if you were so inclined to do so, and it'd still be valid at the point of your renewal. And vice versa, if you take your test but have not actually applied for your card, you'll have up to 2 years to apply for your card, at which point the test will still be valid.
Can candidates carry on using their paper logbooks?
Oh yes, yeah. So like I say, the first phase of the logbook was really to try and allow people to start getting used to the online aspect of filling in the logbooks. Again, by adding an online version, it allows us to discuss with employees about API and information directly into their employees' logbooks. And again, it's still in its first iteration. So really, it's a very simple version. It's self-validating at the moment with a logbook. Future plans will be that once I've submitted an activity, that activity will be sent to my validator in the form of an email, and the email will be effectively contain the details of the activity, the machine, of what I've actually done, and then they'll be able to hit a button within that email to say validate, and that's how quick it will be. And it's all designed really to help speed up the renewal process.
Can we still use a Pearson VUE health and safety touchscreen test?
Sorry, can you just repeat that again? Sorry, Laura.
Can we still use a Pearson VUE health and safety touchscreen test? So the CITB health and safety test. Yes.
Yeah. There's no plans. There's no plans at this moment in time to stop that. The CPCS operative test, or the NOCN operative test, as it's now known, that is really only been allowed at this moment in time for plant operators. So if a person's got additional trades or is a supervisor and above, then we still accept the health safety environment test. So again, from an ITC perspective, if you've got someone coming renewing their test and they're doing the CITB version, you can actually add this as an additional service as part of your offering.
Does the renewal form still need to be completed and submitted?
The paper forms will still be available, but again, you can access an online version of the renewal form via via the hub, and it's also available via the CPCS job cards website. Yeah, the long-term aim would be to try and remove paperwork possible, but again, we're not going to cut that off at any time soon.
How will you monitor the identity of the individual taking the CPD and make sure that they are who they say they are?
Yeah, I sort of touched in on this in the presentation that we're not going to take any photographical evidence of the person sitting the test, but as you saw from some of the security functions, a two-stage verification process, if I was to actually create, log into my account, use the PIN number which is sent to my personal email, then to access that form, I, as an individual, knowingly given my information to a third party, and such that can become available or knowledge to ourselves, we can take action under the Fraud Act.
Yeah. Will the CPD renewal letter tell candidates independent test centres also offer the CPD too?
The information is still available. As far as I'm aware, the renewal card letter still stipulates all options to be able to book this test. Or renewal CPD learning. I've still got to keep falling into it. It's still early days. It's renewal CPD, yes.
Then there's a couple of questions about how to log on as a training provider. I think we've covered that anyway.
Yeah, they log in as an employer. Yeah.
Yeah, so if everyone would log in as an employer unless you're the candidate. So even if you're training provider or test centre, all of those.
Once that function becomes fully available within the hub, those with existing accounts will be able to link emails to that account, to their account on the hub.
Katie is saying that she's only got some 4 categories showing on her homepage when she's logged in. I think that will probably need looking at if that's the case.
Yeah,
we'll have a look at that outside of this, Katie.
Yeah.
How do employers renew cards on behalf of employees? So that all can be done through the hub.
Yeah, it can be done through the hub, or like you said, they can still use the paper application form. The only difference being that they would have to verify that all the elements have been required by going onto Card Checker, etc., and seeing if all the requirements to renew have been met.
Can a large business have multiple separate accounts set up for different areas of the business?
Yeah.
We don't have a credit card to pay. As an employer, can we pay by purchase order, or what other options are there that other than a credit card?
Yeah, so at the moment, as we mentioned before, there is an add to invoice function coming. It's not available as we speak today, but it will be available prior to the release of the renewal CPD.
Emma, we'll come back to you regarding your issues as well, just so you see that in the chat. Does each learner... she's having the same issues as previously, just that it's not showing anything.
Some of the buttons are not showing.
Yeah, so we're just going to check that through. Does each learner have to have an individual email address to log in, or can the employer log the individual in from the portal?
Sorry, I just broke up a bit then. Sorry, Laura, could you repeat the question?
Does each learner have to have an individual email address to log in, or can the employer log the individual in from the portal?
Because of the security functions, it'll be that each individual person has to have an email account. Now, again, this could be managed by the employer on behalf of the candidate, or such as Gmail accounts, etc. But it's because of the security features, it's identified that it'd be better or preferred that each individual has their own password email address, because the system will recognize if an email's been used before. So I tried to do it before, just testing the platform before. I tried to use my own personal email, but because that's logged against an old account, it says that email's already in use and won't let me. So again, it's an individual's email.
Some of these we've already answered before, so I won't go through about invoicing and things like that again. Is the logbook mandatory for the renewal CPD test?
Again, at this moment in time, it's not mandatory because we do accept the paper version if we request. The situation with the logbook has always been that a percentage of all applications would be requested, the logbook were requested. But again, because of cost implications, security of information, etc., this is why we're now moving towards an online version, so we don't have to request paper versions and of such, and risk people's data getting lost. So therefore, initially it won't be mandated, but the long-term plan view will be that all CPCS cardholders will be expected to complete their logbook. Because as we go through the process of renewal, once we receive a renewal, if you're renewing online, the system will already do a check in the background to say, yes, this person has accrued the relevant hours to renew. Once a renewal is received, that clock will start back at zero, but for the learner or the card holder, the logbook will still just continually roll on as though nothing's changed, but we'll automatically be able to see once we've requested them hours, our clock will go back to zero. And then again, for the next 5 years, it'll start counting towards the next 5 years.
And just a reminder to everyone, we can still accept practical tests or on-site assessment in lieu of logbook hours. So if you haven't got the hours in the logbook, we can still do it that way as well.
Yep.
Can employers get the emails for the employees sent to the generic email address if the employee doesn't have their own email address?
What you'll find is that, as I've mentioned before, it'll have to be, it won't accept generic, it'll have to be an individual. It could be a company email address, but obviously it'd be that named person's email address. And again, depending on how they manage that, they might want to bring the individual in for the health, safety, environment test and renewal CPD, at which point they'd request a password while that person sat there, get that person set up on the machine, and then start that renewal CPD or HCC test. Yeah.
For those who are employers who are paying for their employee, do they pay before the employee goes and takes the test, don't they?
Yeah, so currently as it stands on the pay-per-go sort of scenario, as you book your tests, you'll be expected to pay for them either via a company credit card. But like I said, prior to the release of the CPD, there will be an add to account function. So again, as you select the tests or renewal CPD for your individuals, then that can be, you can add that to your existing account.
Gemma from our ops team is just reiterating that here that laptop or desktop PC with a webcam will be needed for the NOCN health and safety test. So it's not for the renewal CPD, but it is for the health and safety
test. Yeah.
And yes, Kelly, slides will be emailed to attendees. Nicola she thinks she's missed it. How long does the CPD take to complete?
All CPD is aimed to be completed within 30 to 40 minutes.
Will there be an operative CPD, or does this go alongside the current CITB tests?
So yeah, just to clarify, the health, safety, environment test is a CSCS requirement and therefore is a standalone aspect. The CPCS renewal CPD is a scheme requirement, and so therefore it is at the operatives level. So whichever card you hold within CPCS, it will be connected to one of the modules.
If the candidates book these tests themselves or these CPDs themselves, how would we be able to manage that they have completed them?
Again, you'll be able to view that on Card Checker.
Let's have a look. Will training centres, ITCs who have already had access to the NOCN Hub need to do anything extra to be able to book these, or will it show automatically?
Those who with existing accounts for the NOCN Hub should automatically see the course availability. So they should be able to see the CPCS renewal test now. So effectively overnight from the 21st to the 22nd, the CPCS renewal test will be removed and the CPCS renewal CPD will be made available.
Right,
so it should be in there, and they still use the same accounts. They don't have to do anything differently.
Sorry, I just had to let somebody into the chat and now I've lost my place. I'm just finding where I was again, so bear with me, sorry. Here we go. Are the NOCN health and safety tests 48 pre-booked? I'm not really sure what it means. Well, if you want to just elaborate on your question there, we can go through that. This new CPD renewal will be difficult for ITCs to offer if candidates don't have any time limits. We'll find it difficult to book numerous candidates per session. It is trying to make it more accessible to all candidates. So if you can book it for an hour session and get somebody to sit down and literally go through it, can't they, Paul?
Yeah, so again, all renewal CPD should be completed within 30 to 40 minutes, as we said. If ITCs were to sort of allow for an hour, they can actually sit with the individual and help them through it. So if there's any learning issues, but again, it shouldn't take anyone any longer than an hour to get through the actual CPD. The only difference to this would be is if a person has to do multiple modules. So if you've got categories which span across, say, 3 of the 5 modules, then what you've got to account for is 30 to 40 minutes to get through each module. If you could potentially have someone there up to 2.5 to 3 hours.
Just to reiterate, Pauline's asked again about payment. Yes, you can pay by account if you've already got an account set up with NOCN. If you haven't, you can set an account up with NOCN. Will a CPCS competency interview still be taken at an ITC?
Competency interviews are an alternative to a VQ and are not part of the CPD. If that ITC is a CPCS test centre, then I imagine that could be done because it's a CPCS test centre that has to notify the competence interview. Is that from Walt?
No, this is from Stuart.
Yeah. So yeah, just to reiterate, the competence interview is for those people who are coming up for renewal on the December 24 following the removal of industry accreditation by CLC. So therefore, rather than doing a full VQ, we have an agreement with CSCS and CLC and CITB that a person who has held a card from when it was first introduced in 2003 and had achieved via the ITC, then their operating ability effectively is not questioned. The only bits of information that we can't capture as part of the renewal process is the information relating to the other two mandatory modules with a VQ. Hence, so that's what the competence interview is actually based around, that the other two remaining MVQ units. But again, as I said, I mentioned before, this is only notifiable via CPCS accredited test centres.
So if we book for our delegates, how will they get the links for the modules?
All links, if you're booking on behalf of an individual, they'll receive an email with a link to the learning. Again, if they already have an account, it's just a matter of them signing into the account and starting the learning. Or if they're new and they haven't got an account, then they may be they were required to create an account to ensure that they are the person. Again, they'll be asked some specific questions relating to the card history, which they'll know, which is the check we're using to confirm that that is the right person with that email address.
Do we get charged for being an ITC for the new renewal tests?
No, there's no additional charge. So it's again like an employee. This is one of the reasons why we moved away from the Pearson VUE platform. So if you're an ITC, you can use any internet accessible equipment, laptop, iPhone, whichever, to log into the hub and take the CPD learning. Therefore, we've moved away from any requirements for you to have additional audits because it's not a platform based in that respect of a Pearson VUE platform. It's totally independent of any sort of platform of that nature. The health safety environment test is, again, it's independent of the Pearson VUE platform, but the security and confirmatory requirements that's built into the health safety environment test, because it's a CSCS requirement, is a lot more demanding. That's why you can only take it on certain equipment with cameras, speakers, microphones, etc., because that's the sort of items it uses to confirm that that is the person sat at that screen and not getting any assistance from any third parties.
Just to confirm, there isn't a contract with ITCs, because it's been asked a couple of times, and the for those who are having issues with the hub, we'll look at those separately outside of this meeting. I just don't want to keep going back to those ones. Will NOCN offer support to CPCS operators who have the problem accessing tests?
Yeah, the platform has been pretty much stable now, because we have been delivering the health safety environment test for quite some time. We do have a support function to help people access the platform, so that's already existing now.
If an individual hasn't already got an NOCN Hub account, will the link sent to them have the 7-day expiry still on it?
I can't be 100% on that one. It's the first time I've been asked that question, but I can look into that. But at the moment, as far as I'm aware, that the link will be valid for a certain period. But I will try and get an answer to that. We'll mark that up as a question to be added to the frequently asked questions.
Will employers be able to purchase vouchers?
No. So as we mentioned before, the vouchers were a system or a function provided by Pearson VUE. They received all the money for any vouchers purchased. It wasn't an NOCN or a CITB thing when CITB owned CPCS. It was complete separate Pearson VUE service. Hence, once we get to the end of the CPCS renewal test delivery, I'm liaising with Pearson VUE to identify how many vouchers have been unused, and at that point I can then speak to the employers and create an account, and then credit that account with the relevant number of vouchers that have been unused, so they can use them against booking CPCS renewal tests.
Can the NOCN Hub be accessed via an iMac?
I don't think there's any issues that I'm aware of about accessing the hub, but the only issues that I might be aware of in relation to the health safety environment test platform, from the testing that has been undertaken at the moment, there's been no issues with regarding the CPCS renewal CPD.
Is the new CPD system timed for candidates and timeout per category?
Again, no, it's not. There's not a timeout function within the CPD, as again, people can drop out and log back in as and when they need to. So they could spend 10 minutes a day on it, do it in one sitting. So there's no time function within that. It won't time them out because it's not a pass-fail situation.
Will there be a guide on how employers, training providers can book on behalf of an individual?
Yeah, within there are some videos, short tutorial videos already on the NOCN website, and again, we'll make these available via the CPCS Job Cards website as well.
If an employer is booking for the CPD for their employees, can they get a confirmation email that it's been completed?
Yeah, so if you're booking on behalf of an individual, as I showed as part of the presentation, there is a screen. There will be a button, a tab within your account that shows all your purchased courses on behalf of your employees, and it'll show the progress, either they've started it or completed it. They'll be able to see that progress within a report within your account.
Will ITCs be required to install any new software?
Nope. No.
Will there be a 48-hour prior booking time required for the new CPD?
CPD, there's no prior, again, because there's no test requirement, no test invigilation aspect to it, you'll be able to book this and virtually start it straight away.
Sorry, just bear with me a second. So some of these issues that people are having is on the hub, they are going to be amended because it will be a slightly different. It's not that it has to be taken within 48 hours or booked within 48 hours. That's for the current renewal tests and health and safety.
Again, that's mainly because of the invigilation requirements set by CSCS, and of these tests, the renewal CPDs outside of CSCS requirements, we can remove that 48-hour function.
Are you able to track the progress of the candidates? So if you've got employees doing the CPD, are they able to just track those?
Yeah, it'd be a very simple thing. So when you log into your account, there'll be a button to view. I'm trying to just bring up the website on my side. Let me sort of bring the right title. So there should be, if I share this, share my screen a second. Now, within what you should see is a learner's dashboard. Now, again, if I click on that, it won't allow me to see anything because I've not booked anything on behalf of anyone, but that's effectively what you'll see before it disappeared, because I've not bought anything. I'll try and get it to do that again. You click on your learner's dashboard, and it'll basically show what tests you've bought on behalf of somebody, and it'll show you the progress, if they've stopped, if they've started the progression through it, or if they've completed it.
If a CPD is done at an ITC, will only one client be allowed to do the CPD in the room?
No, because again, it's e-learning, it's not a test environment. If you've got multiple people within the room, you can do that. But again, what you'd have to do is do it individually. So again, the chances of someone requiring all the same CPDs is quite low. So again, it's just normal test environment that you'd expect to be delivering if you're delivering it to multiple people.
Can an ITC book on behalf of a candidate that may not be PC savvy?
Yep. That's all part of the reason why we allowed ITCs to continue to do this as part of their service. So again, you're going to have people who are not IT literate, who may need some support. So again, they could actually come to your centre and do both the NOCN health safety environment test and the renewal CPD, and you can provide that assistance. And again, that's what the service you're able to charge again, but that's the only thing we're going to be keep monitoring as part of the terms and conditions, because we are aware of third parties out there who charge excessively for that service.
So a lot of employees do not have their own emails, work or personal. How would we get round this?
Unfortunately, there's no way around this. Each individual must have an individual email address. Now, again, like I mentioned before, this could be a work email address or a generic email address, Gmail, etc.
How much does it cost?
It's the same price as the current CPCS renewal test.
Is there a secondary verification to the individual's account holder's email, so an employee could set up the account for employee and still hold the email and password?
What you'll find, the only difference being is that you would have access. You would have to have access to that email account. Because if I try and show you again online using my, just try and walk you through this so you can see from my perspective. If I go to my home dashboard. My dashboard and log out. Let me do. Get it off. Out. So this is me now at my login page. When I click the link, obviously it's all remembered my account email and password. But when I click login, it'll send an email to my account with a 6-digit PIN. So then I have to go to my email account to then be able to get that 6-digit PIN, which I won't do at the moment because I might have. Let me just stop sharing, see if I can get that PIN. No reason I don't want to show anyone's information that may be in an email. So what you will get is this email. Get off that screen. So that's the PIN number you get in your email address, in your email account. So I'd have to have access to be able to see this email. If I then go back to NOCN Hub, put that into there, and send to that, then that takes me into my, because it's then logged me into my operator account. So as an operator, that's what I should see. So it shows me as an operator the test catalogue. I'll click on there. These are the courses available. And again, this is the course which will change on the 21st. I go back to dashboard. This is the renewal. So if I've met all my renewal requirements, I can follow this process and complete the online renewal application. Back to dashboard. This is my learning dashboard. So again, if it should, and this is the difference. If I'm an employer, if I click this and it'll show, that'll be titled that my employees or my purchases dashboard. So you'll be able to see, if I click on that, it'll then show you which courses you've actually booked. And then that's just a quick view of the logbook, of how the logbook looks. If you wanted to do an event, it's just select category, select any endorsements, make and model. I'll just pick anything because it is a mandatory field. That's an optional. Any other optional things, then you just put your dates in and then click submit, and then that will then send it through as an activity. I can view one that I put in previously. And this is the bit in the future. So at the moment, that's self-verification. In the future, that when I hit that submit button, that'll go through to a nominated validator who will then validate or confirm my activity in my logbook. Any other questions? Go on, sorry.
Yeah, we've got quite a few questions. I'm just concerned of time because obviously we are over an hour now. So what would you consider a reasonable cost for an ITC to charge for the CPD? Bear in mind that some people could be 3 to 5 hours to deliver.
Yes. This is me sitting on the fence, unfortunately. At this moment in time, I'm not prepared to commit to that because each situation is variable, it's different. And you may be doing one module, you may be doing 3, and you may be providing services for the CPCS health safety environment test. There's so many different factors for me to be able to say this is what is. Shall we say, if we was to get someone complaining to us that an organisation had charged over £300 for a CPCS renewal, then that would raise alarm bells, if you will. I'm not saying that's the hard and fast figure, because I don't know what contributes to that £300. It might be that they're doing another category on top of the CPCS renewal. So at this moment in time, I can't give an hard and fast figure. It'd be what's deemed accessible. Excessive.
Can the employer select the modules required by the individual?
Yeah, so when you actually booking the test, as part of the booking process, as now for the CPCS renewal test, you'll have the renewal test tool, and within there you'll have the categories listed. So you just click which categories the person holds, click next, and then that will then tell you which modules that person has to take, and then you can book and pay for that test on behalf of that individual.
Is there, if there is no time limit for the completion of the CPD, is there a limit of how long it stays on the system before it has to take again?
Oh, when they were talking about the time element, it is valid for 2 years. So if someone completes it, it'll be valid for 2 years. So it has to be completed before it becomes available for renewal. I hope that answers that question. Yeah.
Do the questions change each time, or will the same questions be recycled for each module?
In this first iteration, it'll be the same questions, because again, what you find, the person will be taking a CPD this time around, but in 5 years, it will definitely be updated by the time that person then takes the next test, next CPD renewal.
Sorry.
I'm just conscious of time. So what we might have to do is we'll give it a couple more minutes. And then what we'll have to do is obviously shut the call down, unfortunately, end the termination. But what we can do is then create a fax frequently asked questions section on the website and start adding a lot of these questions to that, if that's okay with everyone. Is there many more questions, Laura? Is a lot of still to go through?
No, there's not that many more left.
Yeah.
At the moment. Can centres have a shared login? So if an administrator is off work, someone else can log in.
Again, that would have to be down to a company decision on that one. But I don't see why, if a company was requiring to set that up, then that would not be an issue, because again, it's just the same as setting up a health safety environment test scenario. Now you have a company login, and you may have a number of people connected to that account.
How does NOCN ensure that the individuals have sat the CPD themselves?
Again, just recapping what we've already talked about. Again, if I book and use my personal details to create an account, the two-stage verification goes to my personal email account. So by doing so, if I'm not sat behind that computer doing the CPD, then I potentially committed fraud. It's very similar to the banking level of authenticity. Again, when I log into my online bank, in most cases, it's not asking me, it's not taking a photograph of me, it's not confirming that it's me sat at that screen, it's just confirming that this is the information is correct at the point of logging on.
Can this system be linked to TCMS?
I'd be interested to know in what aspect, because at the moment what you find is that once a person's completed, when I mention Quartz, TCMS effectively is the front end of Quartz. It's the sort of user interface. So all the information at the back of TCS is Quartz, and as soon as someone completes this CPD, it'll be updated in Quartz, and then therefore as far as renewals is concerned, it'll show up as valid for renewal.
And
it'd be interesting to know a bit more about what that question has been in relation to.
Will the online renewal test tool still be available on the hub?
Yeah, so what you'll find on the 22nd, it'll change from renewal test tool as it currently is now for the tests. What you'll find is that the content of the renewal test tool changes, and the title slightly changes to renewal test tool / CPD, because everyone used to the renewal test tool, it's decided to keep that name, and then over time it'll be phased out to CPD.
I think that's all the questions. There are other statements and things like that which we will review at the end of this, and we'll definitely be looking at the hub and any issues with the hub as well. So if anyone has any issues after this, then please don't hesitate to contact us, and we'll be
So
able
as we
to
mentioned before, the slide decks will be distributed as well as the recording. Within the slide decks is my email address and the CPCS product email address. So if you have any further questions or anything that you'd like to ask that you think of later, then by all means, please use these email addresses. There's nothing else, no other questions, Laura, at the moment?
No other questions.
Brilliant. So what I'll do is I'll take this opportunity to thank everybody for joining this session, and hopefully speak to you all soon. And again, as I mentioned before, any questions or any further information that you require, please use the relevant email addresses and we'll respond as soon as possible. Thank you very much, everyone.
Lots of thank yous in the chat. Thank you.
I'll just drop us out of there, Laura, if that's okay.
Good.